share with some of you, my first job was I was substitute teaching for Torah Sarah in New York. They had all those day schools, yeshivas, and I needed a few rubles. Anyway, I was going to Columbia University at that time. I needed a bit money. I was substitute teaching, for a day, for two, sometimes a week. My first job. I'm going there, and I'm sure I was the worst teacher in the world, looking back. But coming in there, and he says to me, "I want you to know, come in." So the principal says to me, "I want you to know, this teacher is going, they have to take out his tonsils, so we need a substitute for 2 weeks." Okay, the teacher says, "I'll tell you all about the kids. I'm sorry to tell you, this is the worst class of the whole school, the whole yeshiva. There were about 10, 11, maybe 11, 12. And he says to me, here are those, let's say 16 kids. Moshe is impossible. Chatzkel is disgusting. Yechiel shouldn't have been born, And the way, he didn't have one good word about any of the kids, right? No wonder they're bad, right? Anyway, the next day, the Hammer brother took over. It was one of the best times of my life. First of all, those kids were not dogs, right? We were learning the Mishnah in Hamavkid, then you stole from 2 people and you don't know from whom you stole. And sometimes I can go now and empty David's pockets, he doesn't remember how much money he had, then I'll take from this holy brother, and he doesn't remember how much money he had, and I'll say, I'm sorry, I stole 500 shekel from whom? I don't know, but I know it was one of the 2. So whom do I have to pay back? So one time it says, you put 500 shekel on the table, so that's all I can do, right? And the Chum said, no, you have to pay each one back 500 shekel, right? But it's not so simple, you have to hold them up. So I'm going the next day to the school, and I said, kids, I don't care what you did so far, you gotta learn like crazy. But I want one of you will be the thief, and 2 of you will be the people stole from, right? Okay, everybody says, I want to be the thief, right? Anyway, we had a deal, like you're learning almost 2-3 pages, very deep stuff, Every day another one can be the thief, but anyway, you can only be the thief if the day before you behave, right? You have to be good. It was so good. The kids were much fire, because they realized it relates to them. They also want to steal sometimes, the real little bit bad kids. But cutest in the world, Cute is not the word. And I don't know if I shared with you a story, the one that I hold you up too long, but it was one of my best times. And I was so grateful to my rabbis and to my father, where they taught me. He taught me, in the last row was someone sitting, scribbling the whole time. I told you the story now. So then he says, this Moshe is the worst, because he is mamish gewalt in drawing, and he mamish draws the dirtiest, filthiest pictures, and once a year he's selling them. We can't throw him out, because his father is the sole supporter of the yeshiva. But don't bother with him, This Moshe was sitting in the corner, didn't even look up, he didn't care who the next teacher is. After 3 days, obviously they thought I'm a little bit more soft. After intermission, nobody's in the class. So obviously they are in the men's room, and I'm sure today is the day of the sales. I'm coming into the Kaviyoko, to the holy place, and whole walls are plastered with all those pictures, right? He's really a good artist, But the moment the kids saw me coming in, they're out in a second, right? And Moshe is mamish like, he's dying from fear. Because they told me that the former teacher, he didn't hit him, because he can't, because his father's a top man, top supporter, but you can shockle a kid like this until the neshama goes out, you know. He's standing there shivering. Mama's shivering, you know. So I go up, Mama's, he needs a bigger hug, you know. Obviously his parents also not taking care of him properly. I said, Moshe, you know something? You are going to be a great artist one day. A great artist. And I walk around looking at the pictures, say, you know, unbelievable paintings, but Moshe, this is not the place to sell it, you know. It doesn't fit. I took off the picture slowly. And then I said, Moshe, you know, I want you to learn with me, but real good. We're going back to the class. And that was it. I'm going back to the class, and Moshe is sitting in the last row. I'm sure he didn't raise his hand in 2,000 years. I said, suddenly Moshe raises his hand. I said, Moshe, what's going on? He says, you know, I'm sitting so far from you. Can't I sit a little bit closer? So Moshe, you know what, take a chair and sit right next to me by the desk. I want you to know within 2 days, he was mamash a genius. He was mechaven every Toys's kasha. Every kasha Toys's asked. This boy has it in him. He could be a Gewalt artist, a Gewalt rabbi, everything in the world, right? And the learning was to high heaven for 1 week, or whatever it was. The Tanzel man comes back. And I told the kids, do me a favor, call me tomorrow night, we know what's happening. Really, the last time we said goodbye to each other was real sad, you know. It was like leaving the kids to the wolves again. So the kids called me up the next day and they said the first thing the teacher did, because Moshe was hoping he let him sit again on the desk. The first thing, he says, Moshe, go back to your old place and don't bother me, you know. What was his problem? Mamish, did he have eyes full of smoke? He'd never seen the kids yet, right? How can you say such bad things about those kids? They're the cutest, right? You know why they're wild? Because the way he was teaching didn't interest them, right? So what do kids do when they're bored stiff? They're not like adults sit there and fall asleep and snore. You get wild, right? Anyway, you see, it is so deep. You know, some parents have smoke in their eyes when it comes to their own children. I have seen husbands have smoke in their eyes when it comes to their own wives, or their husbands. You wouldn't believe how much smoke is around in the world, right? Listen to this. You know what Sodom is all about? Salt and smoke. Salt is everything tastes better. It's bad. You know what smoke is? You can't see anything. Well, you know something? When you can walk on the street, when you see a man dying from hunger, and you can pass him by, the problem is not that you don't want to give. The problem is that you didn't see him. Because it's human impossible to see somebody dying from hunger and not give him anything. Can't, right? We got as a human being, so a little bit God's image, right? So Hanukkah is when there's only light, no smoke. Mamish, no smoke. And you know something? On Hanukkah, I'm not walking around asking people for forgiveness. Because if I have to ask you for forgiveness, that means we are not that close. I want you to know something. When I love somebody very much, hurt their feelings, I don't ask for forgiveness, I just... Well, you know something else? This is the deepest, you know? Why is it when people like each other, they look at their eyes? I know how your nose looks like. What's there to see, right? This is the deepest. And we're looking at the Hanukkah candles for 6 hours. The Holy Standard would sit there glued, the Heilige Rishna. What's there to see? On scientific seeing, there's nothing to see, I look. But Gewalt do you see, right? What you see then, beyond seeing, right? Beyond seeing. When you like someone, you look at them for a long time, you know what you're telling them? I see what nobody else is seeing. Nobody else is seeing. Have you ever seen babies where their eyes are fixed on their mother? Awesome, right? By the old Bavitcher Rebbe, President Shteva Furshlam. It was awesome, his face, was the closest you can possibly get of thinking how it was to be in the presence of the Baal Shem Tov, right? Like, it was pachat, when the Rebbe looked at you, your mamish he looks through all your bones, right? He looks right through your neshama. Physically, he began shivering. Mamish shivering, right? What do we know? Okay, Mimi, lay it on me fast.
The first song you started singing after you now was Eni Yodaman, Arelani Bochia.
Yeah.
And I was thinking really, it brought Leah into the picture.
Yeah.
Because she was always crying.
Yeah.
Right? And I was thinking that for me, and Leah caught that they're soft meant that she had a certain kind of softness in the way she looked at the world.
Yeah.
Not that they were weak from crying,
yeah.
but they had a softness. So I was thinking that we know that Leah is 36 and Ohel is 36, it's the 10th. Yeah. And the transformation that happens from Yom Kippur to Chanukah is that really we're moving from a sukkah, from an Ohel, to a bayit, to a home. And that one of the reasons that we go into the sukkah instead of going straight back home after Yom Kippur is to say that we're not going back to our old habits. Right? We're creating something new. Yeah. So we go into the sukkah. But then you can say, well, the sukkah is only temporary. So really we can only sign on Zot Chanukah, at the end of Chanukah, because we're saying it wasn't temporary. It wasn't only a sukkah. It's a bayit. It's really there. It's sturdy and it's stable. And this is really who we are, and this is really what we are. And that gives us that strength that's Aharon HaKohen. Zot, right? It says on Aharon HaKohen, Zot Yavo El HaKodesh. So that we know that it says Tefillah, Tshuva, Tzedakah, Ma'avim Mitorah Gzerah, that Tshuva and Tefillah and prayer and Tzedakah and giving charity is what can take away it can change the decree. And over there's 3 words, it says Kol, Mamun, and Tzom. Right? Yeah. So I know that the gematria of each one of those is 136. And together, it's 408. That's Zot.
Yeah.
And that's Zot Chanukah. And the difference between Zot and Bayit is 4. So you take the Tefillah, the Tzom, the Kol, the Mamon, and the Tzom. You take these 3 things, but you add the 4 walls of your home, and that's the Bayit. So that really we can sign on Yom Kippur. We can't even sign on the last day of on Simchat Torah because we don't have receipts almost to sign. We don't have anything in the bank to show for our name that we can make these kind of promises. But from Sukkot until Chanukah, we really have these receipts to show that we've taken these promises that we've made on Yom Kippur and we've turned them into our tent, our ohel. That's the 36 candles of the 36 hours of the Or HaGanuz that we have, and we show Hashem. Yes, we have receipts for our promises. We've turned it into a bayit, and not only have we made our bayit a place where we're more than our pieces, but we've made our abide into a place that we can shine our light outside.
Remember you say the best Rebbe Shataras. So proud of you, Danny.
And I want to just say one other thing.
Yeah.
That a while ago I was listening to one of your tapes from like 7 years ago.
Yeah?
I wanted to show him, and at the end he asked me to say something, and I was listening to it and I thought to myself, this is such nonsense. It is so ridiculous, it is so foolish, and yet you gave me so much kavod. And then I think that if I can do any kind of teaching now, it's because even when I was really talking nonsense, you gave me kavod. You gave me strength to say whatever I said.
Remember you're the cutest woman in the world. Well, maybe it was good, Taras. Remember what you said?
No, it was mama stupid.
Well, you see what it is? Because you give me kavod when I say stupid things too, you know? Sometimes I fall asleep in the middle of my talking and don't even know what I was talking about. Suddenly I changed from Shmois to Kairach, you know, like. Thanks. Okay, Heilig do it late on me, brother. I'm ready for the highest moment of my young life. It's good times,
I'm sort of still sitting with the first Torah that we were learning today of
Chavita Sevova, yeah?
and the whole thing with the earth having all the good to give and holding back, and in a sense every candle is holding back. I mean, it's filled with light. And somehow, in various descriptions, when you talk about the vision, you're sitting there for 6 hours looking at the lights and the suns and others, and it's in the way the Amshinover and others, just the time they were taking preparing the lights, even before they've lit it. Somehow that sense of the potential of what's contained inside this candle, inside this oil and this wick, and yet it hasn't been lit yet, and then you'd have no idea what's contained in it, and you light it. I mean, it's like also the letter of a word. The letter can sit on a page for 1,000 years, and nobody vocalizes it. It's just sitting there, some ink, smoke, and until somebody gives expression to it. Somehow Hanukkah really bringing down this ability to light something, and to realize that this light, at the same time I think, the light is sitting inside this candle, it's just that I have lit it. No, this light is coming from a whole other place, and I'm bringing it down, and this thing can somehow contain it and sustain it and maintain it. And so I'm sitting with that image on one hand, with 5 fingers, and to keep it from rolling off of my hand, and then, I mean, probably totally unrelated. I don't know. It's more a question maybe than a statement. The way the halacha is interpreted of where you put it, you're supposed to put it outside, beside the door. And yet so much of the image we have is that the light is from the house shining out into the street, and yet in a sense the light is already outside of the house. And aside from all the symbolic levels and the deep meaning, first it raises a tremendous practical question for me. If I've lit my lights outside, I can't sit in my house and look at the light. My children light inside the house. I can look at my children's lights. I know there's no real halacha or minhag or whatever, and I don't know how many of the Rebbe's say anyway, they light inside. It doesn't matter whether the courtyard extends out to here, and halachically you should put the thing. But it's interesting, I mean, the laws we have of where you have to put it, as opposed to the importance of the preparation of it and the light that's brought out from it, and how much of this light should be coming really from inside my house going out, and how much of that light is meant to be in my house to make sure you've reached something inside. It's not enough. You have to be careful. It's going to turn hard, and make sure that you don't only, everybody's so meduyak to make sure their light is in the exact right place to be outside, and none of it's shining inside it. And that somehow we have to learn how to make sure the light does shine outside, but it really has to shine in, because if it's not shining in.
It's true, you know. We always worried about somebody else getting better and we ourselves getting worse every day. The Friedrich Rebbe said in Gewalt Torah, he says, everybody wants to ride on somebody else's horse. Take care of your own horse. How do you sure, okay, Mama Schleyer, they're not strong?
Yeah, I don't have anything to say, just, we're talking about the Holy Latino. You know, I know another story. And he was in the ghetto somewhere.
Yeah.
And there was no moil.
Yeah.
And there was a baby, 8 years old, there's no moil. He never was a moil before. He just said, you know, give me things. And he just went and milked the baby.